In this episode,
there's a documentary that came out this week on BBC Three, and it's called Jared Leto, Hollywood's Dark Secret. He won an Oscar in 2014. He also fronts a rock band called 30 Seconds to Mars, and that it fills arenas, it's huge. And on Wednesday, the BBC put out a film in which 10 women describe what they say he did to them. Most of them were teenagers at the time, and he was in his 30s and 40s. There's Mars Island, which is a multi-day thing on a private island in Croatia. It starts at about $1,700, and the top end is over $7,000. The higher up you pay, the physically closer to him you get, right?
That's a cult, Helen.
Wait.
Like Epstein's Island, you know? I mean, it must be a prime opportunity to get these young teenagers onto the island away from everybody else.
And somebody pays for all of that silence, and it's these women, right?
Most people who are sexually abused don't report it when it happens.
Right.
And that goes double for children and teenagers. They actually wait years, sometimes decades.
Hello, Paul. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Talk to me.
Okay. Wow. So there's a documentary that came out this week on BBC Three, and it's called Jared Leto, Hollywood's Dark Secret. And I thought we maybe would look at it. But first, what do you actually know about Jared Leto?
Honestly, when you first said the name to me, I thought you actually meant Jay Leno.
It was so funny because we were talking and he was like, oh, no, oh, my goodness. And then, oh, I thought you meant Jay Leno, or what's his name? Leno. But anyway, him, the American chat show host, right?
Yeah. The guy with the chin and the cars and stuff, like the Ferraris or Lamborghini Ferraris, I think. Oh yeah. Anyway,
no idea. But okay, so no, not him. Jared Leto is an actor. He won an Oscar in 2014 for a film called Dallas Buyers Club. Have you seen that?
No.
No. Okay. He also fronts a rock band called 30 Seconds to Mars, and that it fills arenas, it's huge. And on Wednesday, the BBC put out a film in which 10 women describe what they say he did to them. Most of them were teenagers at the time, and he was in his 30s and 40s. Of course, he says all of it is absolutely and categorically false. And really important, that he's never been charged with anything, and none of it has ever been anywhere near a court. So... No. That's really important. All of this is alleged.
Before any of that, is he like properly famous? As in famous, or famous in the way people inside one particular world are famous? Like, is he real famous?
Oh, yeah, he's properly famous.
Okay.
His band alone have been filling arenas all over the world for probably around 20 years. He's been a face of Gucci.
Right.
Yeah, he once turned up at the Met Gala carrying a life-size replica of his own head, holding it like a handbag. He's probably famous. Right.
That's a choice.
Isn't it just? I mean, yeah. What's interesting, none of this was hidden, right? So in 2018, another actor called Dylan Sprouse, do you know who he is? No, didn't think so. Tweeted at him in public, like as a joke. And the joke was, now that you've slid into the DMs of every female model aged 18 to 25, what would you say your success rate is?
And nobody thought that needed following up.
It got a lot of laughs because everybody sort of knew that was the reputation, and the way you dealt with knowing it was to find it funny. And that was 8 years ago, mind. There's a DJ in Los Angeles called Ali Teals, I think is how you pronounce her surname. And in 2012, she put up a post that said, I mean, it's funny, not funny, you're not really in LA until Jared Leto tries to force himself on you backstage. And she says she was 17 when that happened. And in 2025, she posted it again. And that's what's widely kind of being credited with the getting the whole thing moving again. Yeah. He was born in Louisiana in 1971, and his mum was called Constance, and she had him and his older brother Shannon when she was very, very young. She brought the two of them up completely on her own, and they literally had nothing. And he's really, really open about that. He called himself food stamp poor, and there's a line of his about his mum carrying the two boys in one hand and a fistful of food stamps in the other. And they moved around constantly. They lived in communes and in countercultural houses, and they spent a while in Haiti where his mum was doing voluntary work. But he doesn't tell any of that as a hard luck story. He describes it as happy. He talks about growing up surrounded by artists, painters, potters and sculptors in this really like Bohemian world full of hippies. And he says that shaped him deeply. His brother Shannon's version of it is that there were no limits, no boundaries, and that their mum actively pushed them both to make things. So they had no money, and at the same time, nobody was telling either of them, but him particularly, what he could and couldn't be. So there you go.
That's interesting. Is that him saying that, or is that other people saying that about him?
Oh, no, that is 100% him. There is there's the tabloid version that makes the whole childhood tragic and damaged, and that is not how he tells it at all. So I'd leave that where it is, you know. As a teenager, he isn't the kind of wholesome type at all. He said himself that he was too busy taking drugs instead of doing sport, which I suppose kind of a sport, maybe, I don't know. I don't know. And the man he is now is the absolute antithesis, the reverse of that. He doesn't drink at all. He's vegan, extremely disciplined, so he says. So he basically remakes himself completely, and he goes on doing that for the rest of his life so far. Then he goes to art school, first in Philadelphia and then in New York, and he's painting and doing photography. He gets obsessed with the dark room. He's got a line about going in and coming out 8 hours later. I mean, that's amateur as far as I'm concerned, but, you know. And then he starts going to art house cinemas, and it changes what he wants dramatically. He decides that what he actually wants to do is direct. So he drops out in his third year, and in 92, he moves to Los Angeles. And he isn't going there to act. He wants to direct. And acting is how you get people to take your calls, right? And the acting works literally almost immediately. I mean, in 1990, really lucky, really lucky, because in 1994, he gets cast in a television program. You may remember it, called My So-Called Life. Do you remember that?
The name rings a bell. I don't remember it. No.
Okay. Well, he's 22 and he plays this boy called Jordan Catalano, who's gorgeous, utterly beautiful. Barely says a word, barely speaks, spends the entire series just doing that kind of handsome lean thing, you know, just leans a lot on things. And the main character, who's played by Claire Danes, is completely obsessed with him in that kind of teenage crush thing. Sadly, it only ran for one series, but culturally it's absolutely enormous, and it makes him an overnight teen icon. I mean, it was just huge. I'm stunned that you don't remember it, but maybe it makes sense. He was the kind of poster boy you'd pin up on the bedroom wall, kind of all of that sort of thing. And that is exactly what he didn't want. Most people, totally. Most people, when that kind of comes at you at 22, take it. You become the romantic lead and you build the career on your face, right? Whereas he goes the absolute opposite way. He's dismissive about the part and said, let's face it, I barely spoke. And instead of cashing any of it in, he spends the next 10 years burying himself in character parts, addicts and killers and misfits, roles where you can really hardly recognise him at all. And the way he does that is method acting, and he gets genuinely really famous for it, for physically remaking himself for a part. The one people rate
Daniel
most is...
Day-Lewis does that as well.
Yes, exactly that they become the whole thing. There's quite a few of them, isn't there? But yes, Daniel Day-Lewis is really famous for it. Jared Leto, really famous for doing it too. And the one that people most rate is Requiem for a Death in 2000, where he plays a heroin addict and loses a huge amount of weight by his own account. He spent around...
Didn't, what's his name do that too?
Mark Wahlberg in Sixth Sense.
Christian Bale.
Oh, for what?
In the Machine Operator, something like that. He lost a ton of weight, yeah.
Really?
He's also a method actor.
Okay. Well, Jared Leto took it to such extremes that he, by his own account, spent around people who were like actively using. And he has another line about it, that they would shoot up dope and I would shoot up water. I mean... That is method acting, right? I mean, I suppose if he was really committed, he would have actually used the dope, but it's probably good that he didn't. Then in 2007, he does the reverse and puts on about 4 stone to play Mark Chapman.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Do you know who he is? Mark Chapman?
No idea.
He's the man that shot John Lennon.
I see.
Outside the hotel. And then in Dallas Buyers Club, where, you know, he loses... again, a dramatic amount of weight to play a character
Can't be good for his body.
No, it would be that would really impact your heart, wouldn't it? Because the muscle wastage of it would be potentially very negative, and your metabolism and all of that. But he does it again. He loses all this weight to play a character called Rayon, who is a trans woman living with AIDS, and that's where he gets his Oscar. And every single one of those transformations is also really a story about him. It's about how far he'll go for the work, and that story becomes the thing that he's known for. This kind of reputation of sort of eccentric genius, the kind of person that lots of people will end up making allowances for. And you see it at its worst on Suicide Squad in 2016 when he plays the Joker. And
this film I know.
Oh, do you know Suicide Squad?
Yes.
Have you watched it?
Yes.
Do you
like
remember the Joker?
I do, yeah.
It's not Marvel, though, is it? It's DC.
No, it's not Marvel, but it's that kind of...
Yeah. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, it's DC because it's Batman and Robin, isn't it? So
anyway,
yeah.
Yes,
anyway,
I know the Suicide Squad.
So he played the Joker in that, and there are some stories that came out about him. They're all about him like staying in character and sending the other actors unsettling presents. Don't know what they actually were, but like, Can you imagine? I mean, it gets written up as, well, that's Jared just being committed, right?
Yeah, but people do that with anyone good looking, don't they?
Yeah,
it's the halo
true.
effect. You know?
Yeah.
When somebody has like one strong quality, we assume that they've got all the rest of these qualities as well. But beauty is the big one. So, I mean, you look at someone attractive and charming and obviously talented as he is, and we take it that they must be decent and honest and safe to be around. You know, there's we do this all the time. I mean, sometimes you call the halo effect pretty privilege. But there's no connection between any of these things, but we do it even without noticing we're doing it, you know? There is an old phrase for it, what is beautiful is good. Although the persona and the allocations, of course, are separate things. They do tend to get run together, don't they? Being difficult on a film set, staying in character, you know, sending people unsettling presents, none of that has any evidenced link to sexual offending.
No.
I suppose that will matter for one reason, which is that it makes people decide in advance whether he is or isn't the sort of man who will do it. Well,
yeah. For sure. But people decide, don't they? Mad.
Based on nothing more than his looks.
Bone structure, a fluke of DNA. That's all it is. It's Well, in the middle of...
You see it with Luigi Mangione.
Oh. That he gets a pass because he's good looking.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
And for who he killed.
Well, yeah, because I thought it was more... But he gets more of a pass
because he's good looking. Whereas if he killed this person and he wasn't as easy on the eye, the coverage wouldn't be as the acceptance and the popularity wouldn't be as high.
But maybe even the coverage wouldn't either, and actually then he would. There's almost a disadvantage to that, isn't there?
Well, you can swing both ways depending on how you look at it.
Well, anyway, so back to Jared Leto. So he's in the middle of this massive film career. He's got the Oscar, and then there's the band, right? 30 Seconds to Mars. Started it in 1998 with Shannon on drums, and he's the frontman, and he writes the songs. I remember this launching, and I remember being like, eye-rolly about it. But he writes the songs, he plays the guitar, and it builds. He slowly, but it builds. And they start out in these like tiny little clubs. And over about 10 years, they turn into a proper arena band, like huge. And they tour constantly, months at a time, year after year after year. So it kind of gets big enough that after for about 6 years in the middle of everything else, where he's this huge film star, he pretty much just stops acting altogether. And for an actor at that level, that's close to unheard of, really, isn't it?
So he's obviously hugely talented.
Hugely talented, or at least, what's it called? The cumulative effect, where he's had lots and lots of exposure and lots of practice.
Right.
So, there's that side of it. But yeah. There's a manager. He's got this manager called Irving Azoff, and he's one of the most powerful.
Him I've heard of.
Oh, have you? Oh, see, that's because he's powerful, isn't it? Because he's a businessman and he's a player. So yes, of course. Okay, fine. He's considered like one of the most powerful men in the music business, isn't he? And
yeah.
His line about Leto is more than one Academy Award-winning actor has walked into my office and said, "I can be a successful rock star. Help me." And he's the only one that pulled it off.
Because it almost never works.
Right.
Right. Starting a band is like a rich man's hobby. So many of them have done it. So many,
which is why I was so eye-rolly. It was like, here we go again. Johnny Depp, look at him. He's got a band, doesn't he, that he goes around.
Well, many of them have bands.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And by this point, he isn't an actor with a band anymore, really. And the centre of the whole thing is the fans, right? They've got a name, these like Swifties and things, and they're called the Echelon. Which I think is, they've got their own language, their own sayings, and the devotion.
That's very culty.
Right, goes a long way past ordinary fandom. So he basically, he builds this like machinery to reach them directly, his own streaming and social platforms. So there's nobody standing between him and them. And
that's very clever.
Really
that he
clever.
Owns his own streaming platforms because he can't be kicked off them.
Well, there's that. And then from 2019, there's Mars Island, which is a multi-day thing on a private island in Croatia.
Yeah, I've heard of this.
Have you? Have you seen the photos?
No, I think I may have done. It's like a spa retreat, isn't it?
Well, it's like part festival, part wellness retreat. Like the band play, but there's also yoga and meditation, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And you buy in by tiers. So this is interesting. It starts at about $1,700, and the top end is over $7,000. The higher up you pay, the physically closer to him you get. Right?
That's a cult, Helen.
Wait. Just wait, because I'll address that shortly. What it looks like, I was asking you, I'm sure when I say this, you're going to go, oh yeah, I have seen that. It's basically him in flowing white robes with hundreds and hundreds of fans dressed the exact same way, mirroring him completely.
Yeah, I know exactly. And he looks like Jesus with long,
I was just about to say, he looks
dark,
yeah.
Yeah, I know exactly.
He's all like Jesus-like.
I've seen the photographs of this.
Right.
Yeah.
So people then did start calling it a cult, right?
With reason.
right? But instead of denial, he plays up to it.
Good for him.
He plays. I mean, I know that's your what's the word? Remit. Don't deny. Just say, yeah, I do. But he does. He plays up to it as well. There's a clip of him grinning at the camera, going, "Yeah, this is a cult," sort of as a joke, but So
yeah, but the easiest place to hide something, Helen, is in plain sight.
For sure, right? So, I mean, the word cult is other people's word, but he's just kind of played along with it. But the managed access underneath is really real, and it is priced.
I mean, that's a parasocial relationship, isn't it?
Sure, yeah.
When you watch somebody for years and you follow everything they do, and you hear them constantly talking about themselves all the time, you build a relationship with them in your own head. It's one-sided, obviously. He has no idea you exist, but the feeling isn't fake. And it doesn't behave like a fake feeling. So you trust him the way you trust somebody you actually know, because as far as your head is concerned, you do know him. I mean, that's normal. It happens to everybody. What's different here is that he's clearly built a business on this.
Right.
And what the business sells you is what this feeling wants, which is to get nearer to him.
Right.
So he has capitalized on this parasocial relationship, but put it into tiered membership levels.
Right.
And a lot of celebrities do this, but it's tiered membership levels online at a distance where you get to go live. He's doing it in person. In person. Which is fascinating.
It really, but there's an exploitation.
He's obviously
there,
very clever.
Very, very savvy. Very savvy. And just to, be really clear about those people in that fandom, there's nothing stupid. As you said, it's a parasocial relationship.
No.
There's nothing stupid about it at all. I mean, you think about us, we get lovely comments all the time from people saying that they'd love to come and have dinner with us or kind of go for drinks or whatever. And you as audience would feel completely safe doing that. Of course they would, but
not knowing that I'm likely to stab you to death and bury you in a garden. But yes,
yeah. I mean, yeah. They don't know us, right? So for all anybody knows, you and I, clearly you're self-confessed now, are murderers. Like, we could be murdering people. And they don't know that. But so it's very normal. It's a very normal thing of that safety, isn't it? It's not
parasocial. Totally.
And I think was it Anne Widdecombe video that we explained? It was about the slots. We haven't got the slot in the brain for the other type of relationship because we never needed it. But he is also not somebody who loses fights. In 2008, a court.
Corporate fights.
So basically in 2008, he, a label I'm sure you've heard of called Virgin EMI, sued the band for $30 million because they said the band
I don't think it exists anymore.
No, I don't think it does. I think the Virgin bit got removed.
I think it's Sony now. Anyway,
okay. But so basically they sued the band saying that they haven't delivered the albums that the contract said that they owe. And most bands in that position either fold or just quietly settle, don't they? Whereas he does not. He goes on the attack in a massive
his record label.
Right. He finds, he finds an old California law, right? A rule that says that these long personal contracts can be torn up after 7 years, and he just turns it back on them, right? Makes the whole thing public, runs it as a campaign about how labels rip artists off, the band pointing out that they'd sold millions of records, and they truly have, and seen almost none of the money that came from that. And it works, right?
I mean, these labels do rip off the
exploit
artist.
The hope, the joy, the excitement, the wants, don't they? Truly.
Because most people who are signed up to these labels are young and inexperienced, and they're ripe for manipulation and
desperate. You just want the deal. I went to BMG when I was in my very early 20s, and I would have signed my soul away. Like
100%.
100%. But I mean, in this case, it works. The lawsuit does go away, and they then get a much better deal. And I love this for him, for them as a band, that they then put out one of the biggest albums straight after this, New Deal thing. So they obviously do a lot better as a result. And the entire time the fight's going on, this your next level, he's filming it, right? He films the entire thing, takes the footage, directs it into a documentary about the battle, right? Absolutely. Not on YouTube. No. Not on YouTube, Paul. This man wins an audience award at the Toronto Film Festival.
Oh, that's genius. Unhinged, but genius.
Unhinged, but genius. He released it under a made-up name, which was Bartholomew Cubbins. I will give you 10 points if you can tell me where that name comes from.
Dr. Zeus.
Oh, God damn you. You're so annoying. Yeah, it's Dr. Zeus. Go on. There's a character in Dr. Zeus.
I mean... Yeah. Losing that fight against a big company like Virgin EMI would have actually been the normal outcome, wouldn't it? Because you just don't win against these companies. No. George Michael took Sony to court in the mid-90s, trying to get out of his contract. Remember this? It was huge. Arguing the whole thing was totally unfair and a restraint of trade and all the rest of it. And he lost. Yeah. Completely lost, Yeah. I mean, yes, it was a different legal route, but it's the same fight underneath it all, isn't it?
Yes, yeah.
And basically the court said to him, tough shit, you signed the contract, you're stuck with it.
Right. And that was the thing, was his argument was exactly the same as Leto's, was that he was young and
he was
he signed it like, he was.
So the fact that he had the intelligence and the wherewithal to go and find an archaic law... Well, as archaic as an American law.
I was going to say, 50 years old. No, I'm joking. Go on.
That shows a level of tenacity and intelligence.
Right. Oh, well, it gets better. Because on top of all of that, there's money that has absolutely nothing to do with anything that I've already told you about.
Okay.
Right? He is a serious tech investor. And not in a dabbling way, not a dabbler at all. So he was in early on a company called Nest. Have you heard of them?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
They make smart thermostats.
Google owned them now.
Yeah, Google bought them for over $3 billion, right? Mm-hmm. He had stakes in Reddit, Uber, Airbnb, Slack.
Wow, all the big ones.
Really big. And he said those might one day be worth more than the music and the films put together. And
he's correct.
Right. His net worth gets put somewhere around $80 to $90 million.
Not even.
Right? That is absolutely an estimate.
He's worth way more than that.
I would say. I mean, this is a completely estimated number, so... I
didn't know that Nest did thermostats. I thought Nest was the precursor to, Hey Google. Like the...
Oh, the speaker things.
The speaker thing, yeah.
No, I've got a friend, actually, that had Nest, and then when Google did buy them, it all stopped working. So he can no longer use all the system that he's got. So, yeah. So this is who he is. And the women in this documentary say that they met him inside all of that on the tours, backstage, brought to him by somebody who worked for him. So
where does this come from, this documentary, this BBC documentary? Is it people online or... I mean, I'm assuming because it's the BBC, there is proper reporting behind it.
Oh, yeah. No, there's proper reporting. In June last year, a magazine called Airmail published an investigation into him. And Airmail is a real journalistic outlet. It was set up by a man who used to edit Vanity Fair. There are 9 women in it describing sexual misconduct. And the encounters run from about 2002 to 2016, when he was in his 30s and 40s. They called the piece... The Cult of Leto, sorry.
But that was a year ago. What happened after that?
Well, not very much.
How did
publicly.
it go from, that article to this gap? Like, what happened?
Well,
nothing.
No, not publicly. But then this week, the BBC film goes a great deal further. So they start investigating. 10 women talked to them in detail, and 9 of those women had never said any of it in public before. The BBC also says that on top of the women it interviewed, it counted more than 120 separate allegations about his behaviour posted online. And that's a count of things that people have posted, comments and posts. So it's not 120 women who have come forward, right? It's really important. The BBC picks 4 of those accounts out and presents them as criminal conduct. Gives them, the 4 of them, false names. Those names are Isabel, Alex, Clara and Etta. Isabel says that she was 17, and this is in Las Vegas in 2002, and that he was 30. She says that she was invited to his room at a motel and that he kissed her and used her hand to masturbate to himself. Now, Nevada's age of consent is 16, so her age isn't what makes it a criminal allegation. What does is that she says she didn't consent to any of it, and it was never reported to the police at the time. Las Vegas police have actually confirmed that bit, right? Then we've got Clara. She says she had sex with him at his house in California when she was 17 and he was 34, and that a friend of hers was waiting in another room while it happened. She says he told her to call him daddy and to play, and these are her words, his little girl. Let's not laugh at sexual assault, Paul. California's age of consent is 18. So on her account, that's statutory rape.
Oh, yeah, fine. I mean, in the eyes of the state, that state in particular, she's a child. So consent, whether given or not, doesn't really come into it. You can't give consent if you're underage. Right. Regardless of how much you want to do it.
Right. Well, exactly. Because you're deemed not able at that point. And just like you chuckling away, people are going to fix on the daddy little girl part as the shocking bit. And what I really want to say, that dynamic
it's not that shocking. I mean,
it's not. But you and I are really used to human behaviour, aren't we? So like some people are going to clutch pearls and whatever, and so much worse. But I think people focus on that, and the thing is that dynamic is actually really common between consenting adults, and it's absolutely nobody's business. But that's good for them. But in this situation, she was 17 and he was 34. And that is where it becomes tricky. So, it's not the fact that it's the daddy little girl thing is the issue. It's the age gap that is the issue.
It's a statutory rape. Yes.
Right. And then there's Etta. And hers is the one that actually has paperwork attached to it. So there is a paper trail. She was 16. Los Angeles 2014, and he is at this point 42. She met him.
Come on, that's
too much. Met him after going around a modelling agency with her mum, and he takes an interest in her career and asks for her email address so he can invite the pair of them to his Oscars party. And
of course, they accepted.
Of course, well, who wouldn't? You and I would be like, yeah. Especially if I'm getting goodie bags and all that stuff. She says he knew how old she was, and then the messages then turn sexual. She says he asked her whether she was a virgin, do you have any kinks, and that he mentioned the 2 of them having sex at some point, and she actually turned the party down. So, yeah. Well, I imagine, I don't know, those kind of messages make you maybe think twice if you've got savvy, if you've got people around you. Anyway, whatever. He gave her his, he gave her his number told her to text him. And after a few days of these texts, he started ringing her from a private number.
Hey.
And then 2 years later in 2016, she's sent by him a non-disclosure agreement, an NDA, and she refuses to sign it.
Good for her.
Really good for her, because those are, especially over here, they don't hold as much weight, but in the States they are.
No, they don't. They're very ironclad in the States. Here,
it's big trouble. No.
It's up to the judge whether he accepts it.
Yeah, it's not really, it's worth having, but it's also not necessarily going to protect you if somebody does say something.
No, it's not.
But the BBC says it's seen that document. It says it's also seen multiple text messages that support that what she's describing. I have watched that documentary, obviously. She does scroll through her phone and you can see that there's lots of communication. Can't see whether it's definitely and definitively him, but yeah. That's
a different sort of evidence, isn't it? You know, the rest of it is people remembering things from a long time ago, and you can't really test that. There's nothing to check it except the person telling you. But you know, an NDA in a document, you can obviously check because somebody drafted it. You know,
right.
And it was sent to her, and you know, I guess the BBC have seen it and looked at it. Although it doesn't tell you what happened between the two of them. But the thing is, if we sent an NDA, I obviously don't want you talking about something, and there would be no other reason for me to send you an NDA, would there? You know, if it was literally just him taking an interest in her career and inviting her to an Oscars party and it being turned down and nothing else happening, you don't need an NDA. Unless, of course. But you see, the thing is, NDAs are sent for all sorts of reasons.
Right. You and I sign them all the time.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, most of the reasons that you sign an NDA for are incredibly dull.
Really dull.
Could just be that, you know, he's very well known, he's a celebrity, and he doesn't want you to do interviews about, you know, my time with him. And I'm not talking about the sexual
misconduct
side of
stuff.
things.
No.
I'm just talking about in general. You know?
I mean, I've been around people who've sent them to me just so that they could speak freely without the fear of if all things, you know, things went south that they couldn't, you know.
There probably isn't a day goes by that I don't sign an NDA.
Right. They're just not a big deal. I mean, it's interesting how people react, though, when you ask them to say one.
It's a big really conspiracy when an NDA is mentioned.
Yeah. And like,
but they're normally quite boring.
Very boring. But I don't know that she actually had any sexual contact with him.
Well, it doesn't sound like it. It sounds like it was text message.
I tried to remember in the message. I know that there was some other stuff that I haven't covered, which was around a friend of his trying to get her into porn, but her not doing it. But I don't remember her actually saying there was contact. Anyway, and you know, then we've got Alex, and hers is, you know, pretty different from the other three. She's 19. She was in London at the O2 in 2013, and he at this point is 41. She was a model, and she'd been given free VIP tickets to the show, which a lot of young models were. This is something that's talked about again. No. Okay. But
it's not unusual.
No, I know it's not, but it's the way in which that was approached is the thing that was uncomfortable. Or at least people talk about it being uncomfortable. Anyway, I don't know. I'm not in that world, so I don't know. Okay. But these models
inviting loads of good-looking people to your event is incredibly normal. Luxury brands do it all the time, bands do it all the time, and it's especially prevalent in VIP areas.
Right.
There's nothing disgusting or unusual about it. It's just corporate.
Well, these models are taken to a room backstage that was only for the models.
Normal.
Okay. Oh, this is interesting. Okay. Okay. Afterwards, one of his assistants walked her around to what she'd been told was an after party at a hotel nearby. When she got there, the only person in the room was him. And she
Not so normal.
Also,
but being in a separate room and, being walked around to an after party, very normal. Him being the after party, not so much.
Right. There's a small thing about this, but okay. She told him she was 17. She obviously wasn't. She was 19 at that time. And she said that she did that deliberately because she thought being younger would make her safer. And what she says came back was, age is just a number. And anyway, we're in Europe. And then she says...
17 is still above the age of consent.
Right. But she obviously wasn't aware of that. I don't know. I don't know. Then she says that he threatened to sexually assault her, and so she got herself out.
Okay.
The film puts her account alongside 3, where something physical is alleged to have happened. Again, I'm not 100% sure about the third one. What she describes is a threat. He didn't touch her. It's frightening. Never ever denying that at all. It's frightening. You're 19 in a room with a man. He's made a comment that is sexually threatening. And it is an abuse of a kind, but a threat and an act aren't the same thing at all. Mm-hmm. They are different. She's also the only one of the 4 who was an adult. So the criminal framing sits much better on the other 3 than it does on her one. There's a younger account still that a woman they call Taylor, because they obviously different names.
Change the name, sure, yeah.
Yeah. Well, she actually was on the documentary, so she's featured talking about this. She says that she was 14, she was at a music festival with her mum, and holds her shirt out for him to sign, sort of like stretches it out for him.
Sure.
And she says that instead of signing her arm or her stomach, he signs across her breasts and told her, "You have a nice rack." Her mum challenged him about it, and Taylor says he looked at her mum and said, "It's still a nice rack." Now, what she says that the mum said was, "She's 14." And then, it's still a nice rack. And then he told his bodyguard to take her backstage. And her words are, "He didn't even ask me if I wanted to go." And a lot of what's in these accounts it looks like grooming, which is, I think, a word people hear and immediately picture like one thing, which is a man and a child on the internet, really, or a small child and an adult. Sure. But of course, grooming's much wider than that, isn't it? It's a process. And we talked about this in the Tate video. It isn't only about children, and it doesn't start out looking sexual at all, does it? It's not.
No.
I mean, what it actually is a sequence, and it starts with trust. Person is made to, which she's got built in, and then they're made to feel special and completely safe, and then they just get tested, don't they? Kind of a comment that's slightly over the line, a touch that goes on slightly too long, and the point of that is to watch what the recipient does about it. If they don't pull away, the next one goes just a bit further, and somewhere in there, they end up on their own with the abuser, away from anybody who might say, "Hang on a minute, what's going on here?" Right? And you can sort of see that running all the way through these. I'm hesitant about this because of the lack of evidence. But, the girl at the modelling agency gets asked to an Oscars party. The model gets VIP tickets and a backstage room that's only for models, and the 17-year-old gets invited to a hotel. And each one of those makes somebody feel picked out and ends with her somewhere quieter with fewer people around, right? And I think it's really important to reiterate that anybody can be groomed, right? Being young makes you more vulnerable to it, of course, and so does having had like a bad time of it before, having some trauma and other variables. But plenty of capable grown adults get groomed and will tell you afterwards that they never saw a second of it while it was happening. And I mean, that's what makes it work, isn't it?
Absolutely.
He denies all of it. He didn't take part in the film. BBC gave him and his people more than 2 weeks to respond and got nothing back. I don't know that 2 weeks is long enough, but...
No, it's not.
I'm just thinking about our schedules alone.
Yeah.
Like, 2 weeks to respond is not necessarily, especially something that big. But there we go. They didn't get anything back. And then he put a statement out to the press a few hours after it aired, and the team who actually made the film never received a copy of it, right?
Oh, yeah.
The line is, I have never sexually assaulted anyone in my entire life, and that the claims are, and this is his words, absolutely and categorically false. And this is what's actually been established. The BBC says it corroborated a number of the accounts with friends and family who those women told at the time, and that in some cases it's seen photographs and messages that support them. The Associated Press says, as an important body, it could not independently verify the accounts. And both of those things are true at the same time. There have been no charges. Mm-hmm. Nothing has been anywhere near a court. And that is where it is at.
Although I have to be honest, I probably wouldn't have named him until he was convicted of something.
Right.
You know?
I mean, we say this, don't we?
Yeah, we don't name the girls. We hide them behind false names. Mm. I mean, I'd have given him the same courtesy.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree. Yeah. And I then know what comes next with a story like this, because it always does every single bloody time. People always say, well, if any of this was real, why did nobody say anything at the time? None of them said anything, right? Okay. Why have they all turned up at once in the same week, right? There's a documentary, so they're all here now and, like, saying what happened, having not said a word.
It's very easily explained.
Okay, please do.
It's called delayed disclosure.
Right.
And most people who are sexually abused don't report it when it happens.
Right.
And that goes double for children and teenagers. They actually wait years, sometimes decades. And a lot of them never actually tell anybody official at all. And the reasons are exactly what you'd expect once somebody explains them to you, you know? It's shame. It's being frightened that they won't be believed, which of course is what happens all of the time.
I mean, immediately.
It's being frightened of him. He's rich and he's powerful. And, you know, when they're very young, sometimes not having the words for what was done to them. So
right, exactly.
The silence is actually incredibly predictable.
Right.
But it always gets treated as if it's a weak point. And it's not. And the thing about them all arriving together, I mean, that's actually not suspicious either.
Right.
So what happens is one person speaks out. And she isn't destroyed for it.
Right.
And then that makes it survivable for the next one. And people take their cue from what they've watched somebody else do safely. You know? And then, of course, there's a film being made or a documentary being made on top of that, which pulls people out on its own because somebody knocks on the door and asks them, you made this comment, were you abused or harassed or whatever? So the delay and the timing and the fact that they come together as a group, this all gets used to discredit them. And every one of those is essentially what research and evidence says happens. You see it all of the time. You see it with Harvey Weinstein, you see it with the Epstein, you see it with Trump, you see it with all of these sexual abusers. You know, they come out of the because it's safety in numbers.
100%. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I absolutely see that. I think the thing about that as well is that I would 100% back that every bit from my own work. Not an evidence sample, not a, we know that this isn't...
I can back it up with evidence.
Oh, okay, well, there we go. Basically, people will tell me things. I love it when I can just go, just do the evidence. Like get on with that. I'll just say the thing, you do the evidence. People in my work, people will tell me things that they've never said out loud. It only happened yesterday. This has never been said out loud to another living soul ever. And sometimes 30 or 40 years after it's happened. And in one case that right at the very beginning of my career was more than 50 years that this person had held on to something until they told me. And it wasn't that they'd forgotten it. They weren't making it up. There just had never been a moment or a person or a situation, a confidence where it felt safe enough to say out loud. And how long it took somebody to say something is not something I would ever use as evidence to hold against them. No. And if anything, it's the absolute complete opposite way, because speaking up 20 years later is actually riskier. As you've just kind of said, there's less to gain from it and far more chance of being called a liar. There's no evidence left, right? And I know what I get for talking about it the way I am now, because I've had it before. The minute I ask things like where the evidence actually is, when we're talking about things like this or claims that people are making, and I do ask for it on our channel, somebody in the comments always says something along the lines of, call yourself a therapist, would you say that to a client's face? Of course I wouldn't. No. If anyone is sitting in front of me and told me any of this, I wouldn't be going through her evidence with her, with them. Like, it just wouldn't be a thing. I'd be validating how frightening it was and how vile the thing he said was. And my whole job in that room is that person. And that's what believing a client means, right? Nothing to do with whether a court could prove a word of any of this, right? And just to be really clear, this is not that room. I'm not a therapist in this position. And I'm talking in a public place on a hugely public platform, not our following, but in terms of just YouTube. Yeah. I'm talking about a man who has been named and hasn't been convicted of anything, which you and I have multiple times discussed we don't think should be allowed, really. And somebody pays for all of that silence, and it's these women, right? You go back to Isabel, the 17-year-old at the motel. The line of hers that stopped me for most of her life, she had told herself, and these are her own words, I was a stupid girl, and so this bad thing happened. She blamed herself for years. I mean, that's not unusual. No, not at all. Not at all. Particularly around sexual abuse, but any abuse, but particularly sexual abuse. I see it constantly in the work I do with people who've been through abuse. The shame ends up, this is the thing I say all the time, is it doesn't belong to you, right? That you put it down, it doesn't belong to you. But this is what happens with abuse. The shame ends up with the person it was done to, and almost never with the person who did it, right? And shame keeps people quiet. That's the entire function of it. It's why it's used in the grooming. It puts you somewhere where you think, it was me. I was stupid. I can't tell anyone. They'll blame me. So the person it happens to says nothing. And every year that they say nothing, he's carrying on exactly, or whoever the abuser is, because women can sexually abuse too. Do not get that wrong for a bloody second. But they carry on exactly as they were, don't they?
No, they do. It's actually called the just world hypothesis.
Just got my little
people need the world to be basically fair. So
yes,
when something terrible happens to somebody, we go looking for what she did to bring it on herself, right? So why did she go to the motel? And we do that because the alternative is worse in our minds. If it was luck, there's nothing keeping it away from the rest of us.
Absolutely.
So somebody must take the blame.
Right. And it has to be the victim, because that's the thing that's the controllable variable, isn't it?
Right.
That you can, well, you shouldn't have gone, you shouldn't have worn that, you shouldn't have done this, you did a little,
right.
you know, that does, and that doesn't stay in people's heads, does it? People don't keep that inside themselves. It's literally the whole culture, right? And again, it just hands the blame straight back to the victim.
Yeah.
Like I said, what are you wearing? Oh, your ex. Oh, this is, you know, in courts, I don't know if they still do it, but it used to be that if someone was claiming rape, your ex says you like sex rough, right? Or you led them on. And so somebody who already half believes it was their fault hears that kind of narrative being reinforced everywhere they turn. And of course they stop talking, you know? And like I said, men get sexually assaulted too. And a lot of them actually carry more shame about it. And it's not a competition, so don't for a second be like, in the comments, because that's not what I'm saying. Because if you think about it for a moment, if you pause and pull out and pull back, men will carry more shame about it because they aren't supposed to be the ones that it happens to, right? They stay silent for even longer. It's really interesting.
Been emasculated.
Well, yeah, they've been emasculated. What were we talking about? Manhood thing. You said that men have to prove their manhood and
all of the time, exactly.
All the time. So you tell your friend you've been sexually assaulted by a woman. You see it all the bloody time. Sorry, I'm getting on a soapbox. No, I'm not sorry about it. You see it all the time. A 15-year-old boy gets raped by a 35-year-old teacher and everyone's like, well, hey, go son, go son. Like, no, that is assault. That is a child who's been raped. Right.
And it's a whole different ball game.
It's
not
such
well
a double
done,
standard.
My son, go for it.
No.
You know? It is
he's a pervert. He's like exploiting a child. So a woman can't do that? Of course they can. A 35-year-old...
14 and 15-year-old boys, it's this whole narrative of,
God,
everybody wants an experienced woman, this kind of stuff.
Like the graduate thing. Right. The idea that it's okay... Because the other side of that as well is it just reinforces a misogyny around the idea that women aren't meant to want sex, because it's the 15-year-olds boys get painted as horn dogs, right? Like they're all just super randy because their hormones are going crazy. Like that's not happening to the girls. Of course it is. That's why teenagers are getting pregnant all the bloody time, because they're both horny. And so it's an interesting thing. But it's also a diabolical thing because children are raped and told to treat it as a joke. And it is treated as a joke,
or in the case of boys, a badge of honor.
That is oh, God, right. And yet, meanwhile, internally, they're feeling confused and, like, violated, and they don't know what to do with that feeling because they shouldn't be feeling it. Because they, had sex with a 35-year-old hot teacher that everyone likes. And even the concept of MILF, that came from a film of a teenager wanting to sleep with a mother. American Pie. Anyway, the whole thing, such a double standard, and just bear it in mind is the thing that I'm going to leave there. With the BBC, it wasn't only the women that talked to them, or the BBC talked to. Some of the people who worked for him talked as well. There is a former crew member they called Brad, so there's some fake names going on as well here. And he says that on the arena tours in every city that had modelling agencies in it, so here we're coming back to that bit, right? The crew were told to ring around those agencies and offer free tickets and VIP passes to their female models, and there'd be a room kept aside backstage for them. And Brad says that the instruction came directly from Leto, right?
Normal.
No, okay. Which is what happened to Alex. Nobody picked her out. She just got a phone call because she was on an agency's book, and she went to a room that existed for that purpose. Brad's line about it is, no one enjoyed watching that or being involved with that. I think everyone thought that the age gap was way too big. There's another one that they call Simon. He says that Leto was often in contact with young women while the band were recording, and that women were regularly coming to the house where they were working. And when the accounts kind of started coming out, he says that they felt very familiar to what he had seen while he was working for them.
See, the thing is, nobody on the crew has to be a bad person for any of this to happen.
Right.
It's actually called reinforcement. You reward a behavior and you get more of it. So their wages, their access, whether they're going to be on the next tour,
right,
all of that comes from one man staying happy with them.
right.
And that goes much further than perks. So if a rigger, for example, had gone to a newspaper and said, you know what, Leto is doing this with teenagers, he wouldn't have only just lost his job. He'd have been the man who did that, and he'd never have worked in the touring industry ever again.
Ever again.
So for somebody on a crew wage with rent to pay, this isn't a moral decision at all. Essentially, that's called pluralistic ignorance. So what you've got is everybody in a room privately thinks that something is wrong, but they look around at everyone else who are carrying on as normal and acting normal. And then they decide, actually, they must be reading it wrong. So what you get is a crew who all disapprove of it, but not one of them knows that the others also disapprove of it.
Right. We talked about that concept on, was it the Heaven Hair woman? The hair lady with the child.
Oh, yes, maybe so. Yes, maybe so.
I'm sure it was, but I think we've probably talked about it lots of times, this pluralistic ignorance thing. It's the thing of that, I mean, that's just it, that people take the open secret and then turn it the wrong way around and say that sort of thing like, well, if everyone knew all of this was happening and watching it happening and nobody did anything and he kept getting cast in things, and then it can't have been that serious, can it? Right? But that is backwards. Because
totally backwards.
Everyone knowing and nobody acting is literally part of the harm, isn't it?
Yes, the main part of it.
And the other version that also happens is, it's rock star stuff, groupies, they're all up for it.
They're all up for it, yes.
Except they weren't all adults, okay? Several of these women say that they're 17. One says she was 16. One says she was 14. Okay, like, whatever anybody thinks groupie culture was, it was grown-ups, wasn't it? There's no version of it that stretches to a 14-year-old, in that whole world.
Not for a band like theirs, no. For boy bands, yes. Not for a band like theirs.
Why? What do you mean for a boy band?
Well, the most
the group. No, we're talking groupie rather than fan.
I mean, they are groupies as well, aren't they? I know what you mean with the groupies, that they follow them around from city
they go,
to city. They get onto their buses.
That kind of 70s, 80s thing.
Yes. It's not 70s and 80s, it still exists, Helen.
Oh, let's go and be one. Like, we're adults, we can choose that.
You don't want to be a groupie, you don't get paid. So you become part of the lifestyle, but never part of the lifestyle. So you get access to this lifestyle, but you can be toughed out at a moment's notice. And then you go back to your normal life. So no, not for me.
That would be depressing. Okay.
Anyway, they don't. Caviar's doing. Groupies don't get caviar. Carry on.
Maybe we need groupies then. Apart from we never go anywhere, so that's like.
But I mean, the thing is, the groupie world is totally over glamorized.
Well, I mean, it was for decades, wasn't it? A very young girl around a much older, enormously famous man. It wasn't read as a warning about anything, was it? I mean, it was just something to be envied. People wanted to be that person. I would think about Elvis Presley.
Yes. Yeah.
Priscilla Presley, she met him when she was 14 and he was 24. And that's on the record, by the way.
I don't think people realise this.
I've known this for a very long time, but any time I've raised it or talked about it with other people, they either know and are like, yeah, it's shocking, but most people do not know about it. And then they don't even know, that she has spoken about it herself. And I mean, there's claims that nothing happened until she was of age and all that stuff, but
I call bullshit on that.
I mean, yeah, right. Whatever went on between the two of them, for years the culture told the story as one of these great love romances, these huge. I mean, even now they talk about it still like that, but nobody was going, well, hang on a minute, she's 14, right?
She's a child.
A child.
But that's norms, isn't it? The research separates what people think everyone else is doing from what people think everyone else approves of. So the first one is what we call a descriptive norm, and the second one is what we call an injunctive norm. And that industry, I mean the film industry as well, but the music industry in particular, has both of them running side by side.
Right.
So people were doing it and still are, and people approved of it and still do. And the approval becomes the stronger of the two. And once approval is attached to something, and silence can be approval. In fact, silence is approval. I say this all the time. Of
course it is. Silence is compliance. That's what I say.
So once approval is attached to something, nobody doing it feels like they're doing anything wrong.
Right.
And so it becomes normalized, and neither does anybody else around them believe it's wrong, even when they're thinking this isn't right. But because everybody is silent and sees it in plain sight, well, it must be okay. So we get these two types of norms. Take Harvey Weinstein as an example. Why the Weinstein reckoning? Yes, it was in the film business, but it did make the film business have to look at itself, at how much of that normalizing it had spent decades. Just calling, this is the way it is. The casting couch.
The casting couch. I was thinking that, yeah. Yeah, it was a given, wasn't it?
This idea that the casting couch was simply part of the price of getting a part.
Only for women.
And
no. I know. No, I do know. Sorry.
Look at what happened to...
I shouldn't have said it.
Look at what happened to...
oh, God. I know the one from the Stand By Me film.
No, not the Stand By Me film. The Mummy.
Brendan Fraser?
Brendan Fraser.
What?
Brutally sexually harassed and...
I didn't know that.
Oh, yes. Why do you think he was... he went silent for decades? Nobody would give him a job because he called it out.
I didn't know that.
Yes, so no, it's not just women.
I mean, I shouldn't have said it was a stupid comment.
What this Leto person is accused of, then, lands straight into an industry with a very long habit of treating powerful men's appetites as simply the cost of doing business. And, that's essentially called institutional betrayal. Right. Now, it has quite thin evidence, a little bit more thinner than the rest of what I've said, but, so you don't take it. Yeah, it's there, but there's just not a huge amount.
We're adding some salt to it.
Well, it's real and it's researched, but the evidence base the research base is small. Let's put it that way.
Is it emerging, or is it... It's just not replicated enough yet?
Nobody has really concentrated on it as much as they probably should have.
Okay.
But what it does point at is, a record label or a band or a touring operation or an industry overall, all handing one man that much power and then treating what it caused as somebody else's problem because so many people are relying on that one man for profits.
For money and gain.
So, all of these people on the tour, their salaries depend on him. All of the music industry, the management companies, their profits depend on him. The hotels, the bookings, the riggings, the trucks, the catering. If you've ever been part of a tour moving from one to the other, the sheer, it's like a city moving
truly.
from one city to the other. Thousands of people, sometimes tens of thousands of people's jobs rely on this one person at the center of it,
Yeah. Do you know, this is such an obscure, telling point of reference to that. It's a little bit like in the old days in Stately's where the servants, their reference depended on, like, if their next job depended on getting a good reference. So if they did anything that
and many aristocrats and mistresses abused this.
Right. And that is exactly it. The problem is when someone's livelihood depends on someone else's goodwill, that is a dangerous bloody thing.
Not just their goodwill, their whims.
Right.
Feeding
those and colluding.
In Victorian Georgian times, being dismissed without a reference was essentially a death sentence.
Totally. Because look at, so again, Les Mis, where she, what's the name of the woman that sings I Dreamed a Dream?
Fontaine.
She's had the baby and she's got this job and then she gets fired from the job and then she ends up literally dying because she has to go to sex work and she was respectable enough before that point and had a job and a place to live and everything else, gets fired, no reference, done. It really was a case of survival, right? And the other side of this, of course, is what's actually happened to him since, because it's really not very much. Film Tron Ares came out last year. It's a Disney film that cost about $180 million and it took about 60 million worldwide. And the trade press was asking whether he could actually carry a film at all before any of this landed. He's just done, Masters of the Universe, the He-Man film. You've watched that, haven't you?
I saw that on I haven't watched it, but I have seen
it's on Disney.
Yeah, I've seen it advertised.
Right, so he's in that. Do you know who he plays?
No idea.
I don't know. I think you might. I don't know how you're going to feel about it. He's playing Skeletor. Right?
Oh, okay.
So, right. The band is still touring. There are UK dates next year. And I've got a funny feeling that there's an acronym that the people who are watching will possibly already have in their heads, which is DARVO. Deny attack.
Your people might have that in their head.
Yes. Well, as we established, some language is helpful. We just need to know that it's not diagnostic. Like rejection sensitivity dysphoria is not a thing. And yet having rejection sensitivity is helpful to name and label. But deny attack...
Use as an excuse for bad behaviour, but go on.
Don't. You're literally inviting me to get my soapbox out. So
please put your soapbox away.
I will. But DARVO, deny attack, reverse victim and offender. So you deny it flatly, you go after the person accusing. The character, what they're really after is all about money. They want money and whatever, and turn the whole thing around so that in the end you're the real victim, the one whose life is being ruined by people making things up.
Yeah, it's a useful idea. But it gets thrown around far too easily.
All of these things do, though.
The evidence base for DARVO is very small. And it comes mostly out of one research group. And so, yes, I mean, fine, it's a promising description, but it's not something that's been properly pinned down. And anyway, if you apply it here, all he's done is the D. He's denied it.
Right.
There has been no attack on the women.
No.
There has been no role reversal anywhere on the public record. So on what's in front of us, there's denial, so the D of DARVO, and nothing else.
Well, this is just it, right? I mean, this is the thing that frustrates both of us quite a lot, is the incorrect use of terminology.
Drives me mental. If anybody's going to get a soapbox, it's me for this.
Well, things like the one that bothers me a lot is gaslighting. That people will say, oh my God, you're gaslighting me. No, I'm disagreeing with you. There's a very, very big difference. Me saying that is not what happened is not me saying you are crazy, you need to question your entire perception of reality and then use me as your point of reference to be able to know whether or not your reference to reality is correct. It's or your perception rather of reality is correct. It's me just disagreeing, and I'm allowed to. And that's not gaslighting in any way, shape or form. But that is what people do with it. You know, particularly DARVO is also really bad. They hear denial and shout, DARVO, DARVO, right? People are so willing and quick to pathologize. And it's almost like using DARVO is almost doing DARVO. Right, they're also almost using DARVO
That's
to
the
DARVO,
irony of it,
right? And they don't see it. I was accused of it in that period by somebody, and it was like, no, I am literally disagreeing with you. You're gaslighting me. It's so infuriating because you can't have any kind of.
Well, it's like narcissist. Oh, he's a narcissist. No, he might be a bit of a dick, but that doesn't mean he's a narcissist. Yeah, they're not the same thing.
Right. And technically everyone's a bit of a narcissist, so, and not in the same, everyone's a bit of an autistic.
Everybody's a bit of a dick.
Yeah, we've all got moments.
We all have the potential to be a bit of a dick.
All of them. Yeah. All of us do. It's all about also who's observing that and their previous experience, right? And as you have said on other videos, like a denial on its own, without all the explanation and justification, is also what an innocent man would usually say, isn't it?
Generally speaking, I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean that he's innocent or guilty. I mean, I don't know anything about this enough to say anything like that. But generally speaking, the more innocent we are, the less we protest. But
I'm just
I will caveat that somebody like him, with all of his money, is going to have a team of advisors like me on his staff telling him how to act.
That is really important. Because he's not sitting there typing this statement and then posting it on Facebook or
he's not deciding how he's going to behave in front of a camera or whatever. Somebody behind him is saying, ensure you do this. You know? So that's not to say he's not intelligent enough to manage his own public persona. He would be stupid if he doesn't have a team of behavioural advisors behind him. And
he's clearly not stupid, given all the things that we've seen.
Clearly not stupid.
There is
and as for being
that...
worth 70 or 80 million, I don't believe that. Not with all his investments. He's worth way more than that.
Especially the Nest thing. That's
right. And Reddit and Skype
and Uber.
And Airbnb
Slack.
And Slack.
Yeah.
Come on. These are billion-dollar companies.
Big things. There is something that I find very tricky about the documentary itself. And I'm, again, nervous because of the way that people expect me to behave as a therapist, even though...
Oh, they expect you to believe everything that you're presented with if there's any remote sniff of victims in it.
And that is such a dangerous
not held
bloody
to the
place.
same standard.
No, you're not. In fact, they expect you to not believe. It's a very weird thing that I'm meant to have more empathy, more compassion, more believing, whatever.
Because you're a therapist and I'm a behaviour. Everybody knows behaviourists don't believe anybody.
No, but it's not even that, is it? It's the you're a therapist, would you say this to your client thing? And it's like, I'm not talking to my clients. Talking to my friend about a case that...
I know, or I'm not talking about my clients either.
And I'm definitely not talking about my clients.
I'm talking about something in the public eye.
Right.
That everybody apparently has an opinion on, but because I'm a therapist, my opinion has to be set in stone and given to me.
And it has to be on the side of the victim, whether or not there's evidence to support the claim. So the thing that I'm nervous to say is I watched that documentary, and apart from the one with the emails, there's literally not a single scrap of any kind of evidence. There are some photos here and there, but they are only photos. Then only a snapshot of a split second. They're not evidence that there were long-term relationships. The sources are anonymous. Apart from, I'm not sure about whether Taylor was or not anonymous, because the person portraying or speaking the story was visibly upset by recounting. So I don't know why they would give her a fake name if she's appearing with her face. But I think it was only 2 of them maybe that had fake names. But there's something that really actually stands out as almost contradicting everything else, which is the one who went to his room after the thing at the O2 and said, I'm 17 and age is just a number, yada, yada. When she got there, she sort of went in her head, apparently, I'm in a sticky situation. Her phone had died and she had no cash. So she asked him if he had a charger and he said no. Can I have some cash? He said no, which is, he's within his rights to do that. She wanted cash to get a cab home or whatever, which, I mean, the generous thing would have been to make sure she got home safely, but that's that. Then she says, the way she says it, she was like, well, I didn't know. And I was like, well, maybe I should just sleep on the chaise longue here. And he said to him, can I sleep on the chaise longue? And the thing that he said, might have to edit this out, but the thing he said was, if you sleep there, you'll wake up with a dick in your ass. And I don't actually know that she said what she did as a result, but her claim of sexual misconduct from him is that comment. But it makes no sense if he's this predator that is sexually assaulting people in hotel rooms constantly, which happens, I'm not denying that for a second.
Oh.
Wouldn't he have wanted her to stay over so that he could sexually assault her?
Yes, he would have.
So why
in fact,
would
he would have insisted that she do it.
Right. So
he
it doesn't.
Said,
it was illogical. Right. So there's something really illogical about this story being used A, as evidence of him having sexual misconduct, and B, that he is a general predator. Because
both
surely
can be true at once.
Of course, but it's just the whole thing. We come up against this over and over again, you and I, that we see things claimed in documentaries by really reputable producers like the BBC, and they state things as fact,
as absolutes.
As absolutes. Like at one point, they say that this one person had sex with Leto at his home in da-da-da-da-da-da. But there's no evidence to support it. But they're stating it as an absolute, not a she claims, or there's no alleged around it.
Yeah, well, I mean, tearing down somebody gets more views than building them up.
So it's tall poppy syndrome.
It is.
For clicks and likes and rage bait and now this is
bias.
Not, but just to be really clear, it's not to say that he didn't. I'm not saying he didn't do it. I'm just saying that the evidence again that we're being presented with is not reliable.
Shaky.
Other than and the one that's got the messages, like, they are inappropriate, but it's also not necessarily evidence of gross misconduct other than a bit of a pervert. Again, I don't want to minimize it, its inappropriateness, but it's the people take these sorts of things, these allegations, and run with them as though they're fact. And the way it's presented is as though it's fact. There's not an inquiry. He doesn't have a voice in it. There's no, here's the evidence of it. Here's the this, the that, the other. You know, it's
gratuitous.
It's just not fair is what it is. And then there's the thing of we must believe everyone if they make a claim about sexual misconduct.
The accused.
Except the accused. And so, you know, feel a little bit sort of hypocritical discussing this at all, given that, you know, our position on not discussing an anonymity, or sorry, not discussing, but the anonymity. But I actually think it's a really important thing for critical thinking around it. So, yeah, I just wanted to state that there are flaws in this presentation of evidence. And I suppose just to come back to the psychology, is there anything in any of this that points to anything sort of diagnostic at all?
I mean, we haven't actually heard from Jared Leto himself, right?
No.
You know, there is no interview that he's done.
Right.
I'm assuming he's done no assessments. And
well,
literally everything... I mean, the reason I've been so quiet is because quite literally everything that you've said here is other people's accounts of what he's alleged to have done. You know? So you can't build any sort of diagnosis on that.
No. And you shouldn't.
Even,
it'd be super reckless if you did.
And even if you could sit him down, sexual offending isn't a mental disorder. You know? And it doesn't actually map onto anything in the ICD. So, I mean, of course, the two words that people are going to use... I
know, I'm just like but what about in my brain? What about this?
Is going to be narcissist.
Oh, that's not where my brain went. Oh, no, that's not where my brain went. So I feel smug now.
And of course, narcissist and psychopath, neither of those is a diagnosis. Psychopathy is a score and a checklist that, you know, you have to sit down and answer and administer. And, you know, he clearly hasn't. At least we don't know whether he has or not.
We don't know. He may well have done, but it's not our business because it's private.
Right. And, you know, ICD did away with these separate personality disorder categories. So there isn't an antisocial personality disorder. There isn't a narcissistic personality disorder to give to him in the first place, you know? And anyway,
he's in America, so...
Regardless, what these accounts actually describe, which is an interest in 16 and 17-year-olds, is not paedophilia, right? Or paedophilic disorder. Because paedophilic disorder means a sustained sexual preference for children who haven't reached puberty.
Yes.
Right?
I know what it is.
And that isn't what's being described. I know you know what it is.
I know, but I just like that.
The audience may not, because they throw around...
people use paedophile to describe anybody, like minors, anybody minor, don't they? But that isn't what's being
described. Now, you have another situation as well, where in many jurisdictions, the age, with the exception of the 14-year-old, are of the legal age of consent. America is an outlier that the age of consent is 18. So,
in California, not everywhere.
Not everywhere, but you know, a lot of the states are 18.
Vegas,
but they're an outlier. They're an outlier in a lot of things. You know, the age of drinking is 21. But you know, so if any of these things had happened anywhere else, like in Europe or wherever, he'd be considered a dirty old man.
Yes.
But it wouldn't be considered rape, and it certainly wouldn't be considered paedophilia. Right. But anyway, this paedophilic isn't what's being described.
No.
The word that should be used for the other thing, you know, young teenager, 14-year-old. Pubescent, right, is hebephilia. And even that isn't recognized in the ICD. Or indeed
is it not?
No, or even in the DSM either. There is no diagnosis for either end of it. They're just descriptive words. And the thing is, whether he's... Oh, I'm sorry to disappoint.
No, okay.
And whether he's got a diagnosis and whether he did any of this are completely separate questions anyway. You can't always explain somebody's behavior with a clinical diagnosis.
Right.
Plenty of people with a diagnosis never harm anybody.
Right.
In fact, most people with a diagnosis never harm anybody.
Right.
But you can do a huge amount of damage anyway without ever meeting a diagnostic criteria. I don't understand people's obsession with trying to label it.
Because it becomes tidy. I genuinely don't.
Yeah.
It becomes tidy then, doesn't it? I do get the desire to label, because then if I label, then I can understand. And if I can understand, then maybe I can either tolerate, empathise, or reject on that ground.
Well, here's an idea. Stop repeating shit you hear on Facebook and TikTok and Instagram and go and do your own research on what these behavioural disorders and these personality disorders actually are.
People won't do that, because it means then they have to change the belief that they've suddenly gone, this is the thing that is me. What? Why are you laughing at me?
I'm laughing because it's just ridiculous.
Well, I thought it was because, like, the conversion, like, the conditioning has taken
that
hold.
Is not. I'm well enough aware of human behaviour to know that that isn't what happened.
What?
Go on.
No, I thought you meant me being like, people aren't going to do that. And anyway, whatever.
No, but people aren't going to do it. That's what happens with human behaviour.
I know.
We'd much rather be ignorant. Ignorance is bliss is a phrase for a reason.
Right, and we want to hold our beliefs. It's very hard to change beliefs, isn't it? Somebody who changes beliefs. I mean, we talked about it with the moral conviction thing. Anyway, your identity gets built on your beliefs and then blah. I'm shocked that hebephilia and paedophilia are not in a mental health condition or
not
considered.
Anymore.
Oh, they were?
They were.
Oh, okay.
But then so was homosexuality.
Well, yes. But why did they take... Anyway, whatever. So, I mean, the other thing about this as well, that none of the accounts, apart from the one about the comment in the hotel, describe a frightening man. Not one of them. Now, to be clear, doesn't mean that he's not frightening. We've talked about
exactly.
this, the charming and...
But none of them also describe him turning into a frightening man.
But that's the thing. That nobody talks about him becoming intimidating. Whereas the woman that got Carol that got away from Ted Bundy talked about him moving from like nice to monster. Like it was there is a huge switch flip. So there's none of that it all starts with them being nice.
Right.
Him being nice. Again, it's not evidence.
You have to remember that nobody gets a 16-year-old or a 17-year-old onto a private conversation or into this situation by terrifying her. You know?
Well, this is just it. This is grooming. The
do
nice
it
thing
by
is the grooming.
Being the most interesting adult
right
in the room and showing her that you take her seriously. What I would say is that most of the time it starts off like this, but there is always a turn where the charming, interesting adult turns into the predator.
Right, basically. Which I've experienced personally. Like that is, it's a real truth that, they go from being loving and kind to terrifying. And I mean, genuinely terrifying. It's not, you don't, I mean, Etta was 16 when he was messaging her and says that he knew that. And 2 years later, somebody puts a document in front of her that would have absolutely stopped her ever talking about any of it.
The NDA,
Yeah, and she just didn't sign it. And that was that.
But she's the one with the most evidence.
Right. She is the one with the most evidence. And none of the others talk about any kind of NDA requests.
So, but I mean, there's an awful lot of accusations from what you tell me. Mm-hmm. Accusations don't always mean truth, but there's no smoke without fire.
That's not true. You get smoke before you get fire. I know. I'm being literal, but the point is that I've had smear campaigns run against me based on the tiniest little grain of sand. That is the fragment of truth. So the fragment of truth is that he maybe, and I'm not suggesting, but let's say the fragment of truth is that he signed her boobs, her T-shirt across her boobs.
Yeah, I mean, all of that, fine. So these things that we can prove, that he signed, and said nice rack or whatever, fine,
we
highly
can't prove that, but that's her recounting of a story.
Yeah,
there's no
highly
evidence
inappropriate.
Of it.
The inappropriate text messages, highly inappropriate. This puts him down as basically a dirty old man, pervert.
Yes.
But he's being accused of statutory rape, you're saying.
Right.
That's a whole different
But there's
ballgame.
no charges. He's not been arrested. There's no criminal investigation. There are accusations, and yes, when there are lots of them, it does sort of start piling up, and we do start giving it more weight.
Helen, you've got a compounding effect.
But that's exactly it. It's not just because lots of people are saying, yeah, he did this thing to me. There's also hindsight, outcome bias. Like,
there is. There's also looking at it from a
adults
time frame where it happened.
Yes.
And also the need to maintain a persona. Everybody expects rock stars to be oversexed, lecherous perverts. Honestly, I didn't really know him when we started, and nothing you've told me really changes the pendulum either way.
Success. I don't know. What's interesting to me is that island thing, the Mars Island thing, is that surely that would be a place where it would be ripe for picking.
When you mentioned this to me, I was thinking to myself, but that must be like Epstein's Island, I mean, it must be a prime opportunity to get these young teenagers onto the island away from everybody else. But I mean, not at $1,600 a ticket.
No, $1,700 I think. But also and
it's all adults with hippie free love and yoga and stuff like that. And to be honest,
but
there's so many people that goes to this where it would have got around.
But you've also
something would have come out.
Right, something would have come out. But the other side of that as well is you've got a man doing arena tours, multiple arena, like thousands and thousands of people, and there's four. Well,
there are 120 comments.
20 online. Yeah, online claims of thing. But you also... How many people make statements because everyone else is making it and I could get on that bandwagon and get something from it?
Absolutely.
How many people are excited to be in a BBC documentary and so exaggerate things a little bit? And I want to go back and say, this is not me saying that we should disbelieve them completely or any of that stuff, because the other side of that, again, is that sexual assault is really hard to prove. It's an historical sexual assault. Even harder. I mean, I think 1% of cases get to court in the UK, and 1% of those cases get conviction. So it is a very difficult thing to prove anyway. It's just that even in that light, these are still shaky claims, other than the one with the messages and the context and the emails and things. So it's tricky. Because I don't want to disbelieve people that something really awful has happened to, but I also don't want to cast a man as a sexual predator that is not a sexual predator. It's a difficult one.
It is. But that was interesting.
Was it?
Not really.
No, you didn't.
But,
I didn't think you was.
Me and celebrities, and
I know.
they don't really fascinate me, but there
If it
is
was a
some
politician,
fascinating, and I'd be a little bit more interested. There is fascinating psychology behind this. I mean, he clearly has his fans enthralled. You know?
Like, enthralled.
And he's clearly very good at influencing people to act and feel in a particular way. That takes a great deal of charisma and intelligence that goes beyond just being good looking.
I was about to ask how much the halo effect helps in that.
No, the halo effect starts it, but doesn't maintain it.
Right, because you have to have the charisma.
Yeah, you have to have the charisma. So, I mean, from that perspective, very interesting, very interesting. And, it just shows the dynamics and how we discount things when we rely so much on one person.
Right.
Because you remove him from the equation, everybody loses their job.
Right. And maybe never gets another one.
And maybe never gets another one.
And who gets tarred by the same brush?
You could as well get tarred by the same brush, but, when you have everybody's livelihood, and I'm not just talking about him, I'm talking about people like Taylor Swift and Britney Spears and anywhere where there's this huge ecosystem that revolves around one person.
It's literally a world. Isn't it?
It's a very fragile place to be.
It's also very dangerous for one person to have the control over that.
Yes, it is. Because
very
that
dangerous.
Can very easily be used as
exploited
weaponized.
and abused, really. Because
So,
it's authority, really, isn't it? And
it is.
Taylor Swift did the thing of giving all her crew life-changing amounts of money, so that after her Eras tour, that she gave everybody enough money that it would fundamentally change their dependency on income, which I think is a fabulous thing from their point of view, in that it means that the choice to be there is free rather than obliged, and that you're not just getting yes men. But yeah, it's interesting just from the way, the reactions and everything else. So yeah,
it is. I imagine there's an awful lot of outrage online.
Yeah,
I haven't seen any of it, of course, but I imagine.
I mean, you will see more of it than I will, because you're chronically online and I'm not. So it's,
Well, I'm saying we're probably going to see a lot of outrage when we post this video, because maybe we weren't as mean to him as some people would like, and maybe we weren't as understanding of the victims as some people would like, or maybe we didn't validate his innocence enough. You can never please everybody. Really
so do you know what the answer is? If you can't do that, you might as well just stay with what you know and what you need. And for me, it's to say the evidence is not high enough standard, but it doesn't mean that there isn't any truth to it. So let's keep an open mind. That is where I'm at, personally.
I agree.
Okay.
I agree.
Well, like, comment, subscribe and all that jazz. Just don't tell us we're arseholes, thanks.
See you in the next one.
See you. Bye.